Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. Today I want to talk about Battlefield 5 and provide some constructive feedback based on the experience that we had while playing the closed alpha for about 15 hours. So in one of my previous Battlefield 5 videos I said that after 12 years this game might be the one that provides a true Battlefield experience again. Now, while some players try to play Battlefield 5 like Battlefield 3, 4 or 1, which doesn't work, and the game still has issues and shortcomings that do not allow it to reach its full potential just yet, I stand by what I said in this video for one simple reason. Back in the old days before the Frostbite engine, it was very common that games ended really close, either with less than 20 tickets left for the losing team, or they could even end in a draw. In Battlefield 3 I experienced this exactly one single time shortly after the release of the Strike at Karkand map, and in Battlefield 4 I had only 3 matches and really close while playing Domination. But most matches would always end with more than 100 tickets left for the losing team, which just isn't fun for me because I want that both teams fight really hard for the win and not have one team constantly crush the other. So I'm very happy to report that while playing Conquest in the alpha of Battlefield 5, pretty much every game ended with just a few tickets left for the losing team, where many times it was not clear until the very last minute which team would win in the end. This is part of the original Battlefield experience that I fell in love with more than 15 years ago, and I was really happy and almost shocked to see this again in the closed alpha of Battlefield 5. That said, I also had 3 matches where half of the other team suddenly left for some reason, and since we couldn't find a way for our squad to switch over to the other team to balance it out, we then won with more than 200 tickets left, which was very boring as the other team just had no chance against our numbers. So, unless we just couldn't find the option to switch teams, I hope that DICE will add this for the final version of the game so that players can jump over to the other team to restore the balance if required. Speaking about squads, inside the main menu you can create a squad, invite your friends to join that squad, and then either use the matchmaking system or the server browser to join a server together, where you then automatically end up in the same squad, where it would also be nice if your clan tag would show up next to the squad name. If you join with less than 3 friends, then others can still join your squad once you are on the server. And you can use the social menu to, in example, send a squad member a friend request if you want to. So I really like that system as it makes it very easy to join and also leave a server together with your friends. But I'd really wish that we would have 5 instead of 4-man squads, simply because I want to have more of my friends in my squad. Now, like in the previous titles, the squad leader can give orders to the squad members, either by looking at a 3D flag icon on his HUD and then pressing the Q key, or by using the comm rows. What I really like about using the comm rows is that you can see how many other squads are already attacking or defending a flag. This is very useful because when there are already 2 squads attacking a flag, then you might want to choose another one to avoid that your entire team attacks or defends the same objective. But DICE could still improve this part inside the comm rows by also showing the distance to each of these objectives so that a squad leader can quickly select the closest one without having to look at the minimap first. An issue that Battlefield 5 currently has is that when you get promoted to squad leader, then it is very easy to miss that notification. And when squad members ask for new orders, then this tiny notification on the left is also very easy to miss. So, since the squad leader already gets this element down here when he issues an order, I'd like to suggest that DICE uses this space to notify the squad leader when there are no active orders, or when a squad member requested a new order. This would also help with the issue that players sometimes don't even seem to know that they are the squad leader. And what DICE should really bring back is the feature where a squad leader loses his position if he does not give orders even when his squad members requested a new order. One of the biggest changes in Battlefield 5 is that the 3D spotting is pretty much gone now, which means that you will rarely be able to just shoot below a triangle, and you cannot abuse the spotting mechanic to reveal enemies. In Battlefield 5 you must use your eyes to visually identify enemies, like you had to do in the good old days of the Battlefield franchise. That said, DICE introduced a ping feature, which allows you to mark a location for your squad mates so that you can let them know where you have seen an enemy. However, while this feature is really powerful, we frequently ran into the issue where one of us would see a sniper and place a marker, but the rest of us had a hard time to find that marker on the HUD. If the game would have a compass ribbon, then these two features would work really well together, because I could then say, I placed a marker north of us, there is a sniper, and so everyone would know in which direction to look for that marker, which then points at the exact location of that sniper. The way how you respawn in Battlefield 5 was also changed in quite a big way. When you get killed, then you first go here, from where you can then either directly deploy onto one of your squad members, or you can go back to the big redeploy screen. So I really like that the game presents you with this deploy screen first, because it puts more emphasis on team and squad play, as it tries to get players to stick with their squad mates. And based on my experience in the alpha, this seems to work quite well, as I almost always had pretty much my entire squad around me. However, there are a few things that I would like to see change here. Number one is that I would like to spawn on a specific squad mate just by clicking on his name here. This should be really easy to implement, as this already works in the big deploy screen. Then it would be nice if there was an icon or under fire text next to the name of the players that I cannot spawn on, so that I know that I cannot spawn on him. And the map would also be very useful here, so that I can see where my squad members are without having to cycle through them. Knowing where each of my squad mates is all the info I need when I have to decide where to spawn. Now let's take a look at the new revive mechanic. When your health reaches 0, then you hit the ground and start to bleed out. In that state you can still look around, you see your nearby squad mates as well as medics, and you can press and hold the left mouse button to slow down the bleeding and scream for a medic. When a medic reaches you, then he just has to press the E key to initiate the revive process, which triggers a small animation, and then you are back at 100 health. Besides medics, your squad members can also revive you, but that process takes longer and it will not restore you back up to 100 health. So while this is a very useful mechanic that also strengthens the squad play, it does by no means replace the medic class. Now I do have a few suggestions when it comes to this revive mechanic. So when you are down, you can still look around, which is very useful because you can then check your surroundings and tell your squad mates where you see enemies. Now here's the problem. How do you tell your squad mates where those enemies are? Sure, the ping feature would help, as you could then place a marker, but then we still have the issue I mentioned earlier, that this marker can be hard to find in some cases. So if DICE would add a compass ribbon, like I showed you in one of my recent design concept videos, then you could tell your squad mates that the player who shot you is southeast and he is still looking right at you, and there is also a group of enemies to your east. This would be extremely helpful for the players inside of your squad who want to revive you. Then there are cases where there is no other player near you who could possibly revive you. In such a case, it really makes no sense to even have the player enter the bleeding out phase. He should go directly to the squad deploy menu, where he has to wait for the redeploy timer to reach 0. Then it can happen that there are medics from other squads near you who could revive you, but as soon as your squad gets wiped, you get pushed to the redeploy menu instead of allowing you to wait for one of the other medics in range to revive you. This must not happen. In this case, you should just continue to bleed out until you run out of time or get revived. Sometimes there will also be situations where you know that anyone who tries to revive you will die. In this case, it should be possible to press the right mouse button to tell others that it is not safe to revive you. However, this must not end the bleeding out process, because then we will see many players just cancel their revive process, as we've seen in Battlefield 1. After all, the bleeding out mechanic is also meant to get players to change their playstyle so that they think ahead and don't run and gun like Rambo. When you die, then this must hurt, or players won't change how they play the game. Now, I'm sure that this here is a bug, because it can't be intentional that the revive icon does not show up above my squad mate for several seconds. However, I would like to ask DICE to show a revive icon on the minimap for every player that I can revive, so that it gets easier to find them on the battlefield. Another thing where I'm quite sure that this is not working as intended is the lighting inside buildings, because it's just way too dark inside of them. Two other changes that also have a very noticeable impact on the gameplay in Battlefield 5 are that auto heal will not restore you back up to 100 health, and that you spawn with much less ammo than in previous titles. Now, to get healed up back to 100%, you either need to find a medic, take meds from a first aid box, or go to one of these resupply stations. If you run out of ammo, then you can also go to one of those resupply stations, or you find a support player, or you can take ammo from enemies, as some drop ammo when they get killed, though I think that picking that up should also require that you press the E key. Now, I really like the resupply stations and that enemies drop ammo, as these are very clear game mechanics. What I do not understand is why DICE still keeps auto-heal in the game. This is why I would like to propose that auto-heal gets removed entirely and have medics of you as well as the enemy team drop a med bag when they get killed, so that you can get meds just like you can get ammo. There's really no need to keep that passive auto-heal nonsense in Battlefield 5. Now, sadly I couldn't spend much time in the pilot seat of the aircraft, but there are a few things that I would like to talk about. To me it feels like any kind of maneuver results in too much loss of speed, which leads to a semi-stall of the aircraft. I also think that the top speed of the aircrafts needs to be increased, as they feel a bit too slow at the moment. Another thing is that I feel like it's quite easy for ground units to take down aircrafts, while in dogfights it seems that planes can take much more of a beating, which seems a bit off. But again, I didn't have the chance to do many dogfights, so I might be wrong here. Then there is how planes respond to the player input. It just doesn't feel very consistent, as sometimes the plane seems to wildly overreact. And I think that the turning radius should be decreased for all aircrafts, as it just feels a bit too wide now. What I miss when I'm in the pilot seat is a rear view, or in other words, a hotkey that I can press to look back, which is especially useful in dogfights. Then there is that rearm icon in the air. I really think that DICE has to move that rearm icon further away from the battlefield, not just to improve the situation of players on the ground, but also to create a better gameplay loop for pilots. If you want to know more about what I would do to enhance the balancing between air and ground units, then you can find a link to that video in the description down below. Now, without 3D spotting it gets quite hard for pilots to find enemies on the ground, which is why I think that DICE finally needs to implement a close air support mechanic, which I once did a concept design for. Basically, a squad leader could use binoculars to temporarily mark an area where he needs pilots to provide close air support in, and the pilots then get a notification on their HUD where they see the area marked for close air support. So with this mechanic, the pilot then does not only know where to engage the enemy, it also strengthens the relationship between ground and air units, as these then actively work together. The pilot then also gets rewarded for damaging any player who is inside that area or who was inside that area when it was marked for close air support. To avoid that this feature gets spammed constantly, there must be a cooldown for how frequently such close air support requests can be made and how many squad leaders can make such a request at the same time. Another feature that is more powerful than many realize is the ability to build fortifications. Every player can press the T key on his keyboard and then start to build cover in predefined areas placed on the map. Many people were quick to dismiss this feature as a gimmick, but even in Conquest mode it can really help your squad when you either try to take or defend an objective where most of the cover has already been destroyed. The spawn beacon also exists in Battlefield 5, and DICE sadly gave it to the Recon again, which turns the spawn beacon into a camping beacon. DICE first introduced this gadget in Battlefield 2142 as a squad leader only tool, and this is really the only player who will take good use of that gadget. So I really do not understand why DICE does not make the spawn beacon a squad leader only gadget again, so that he can place it near the front lines where it is not only needed, but where it is actually useful. Speaking of things I do not understand, I do not know why every Frostbite engine Battlefield game must have gigantic texts and icons right at the center of our screens, where they obstruct our view. I know that this is an alpha, but it is annoying to see DICE make the same kind of design mistakes over and over again in every game. Another element on your HUD that needs some work is the minimap, especially when you press the M key to open the large map. When you look at this image here, then you will probably also have a hard time to find out where I am right now. In the alpha I would always move my mouse left and right to see where I am on the minimap, so this obviously needs some work. Then there are the voiceovers of the German team, which I don't like at all.
Informing you that objective Caesar has been lost. Sehr gut. Objective Bertha taken.
I really hope that the game provides an option where I can choose between native and fully localized voiceovers, so that when I select native, then the voiceovers from the German team will be just in German, instead of this strange mix where one single voiceover uses German and English, which is just utter nonsense. Some players criticize the time to kill in the alpha as too fast. Now, while some guns like the STG-44 or Sturmgewehr 44 seem a bit too powerful right now, I did like the time to kill in the alpha. What players definitely need time to adjust to is the reduced auto-heal, because when I had a look at my recorded gameplay footage where I felt that I died too quickly, I either noticed that I was not at 100 health when this happened, or that I was shot by multiple people at the same time. This getting shot by multiple people at the same time is sadly still not explained properly in the kill cam, which does lead to unjustified accusations and frustration. Then there's this whole customization and female soldiers controversy. I really couldn't care less about female soldiers on the battlefield, because unless you revive someone or get revived by someone, you will hardly be able to identify the gender of the other soldiers. So I don't know why so many people made such a big deal out of this. What I am a bit worried about is the customization and what it will do to the player models. But to be honest, the look of the player models also bothered me in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, where some had gas masks and ballistic masks glued to their faces, which made no sense at all and caused that you felt like there were mercenaries at war, not actual armies. When it comes to the customizations in Battlefield 5, then we must consider that this is most likely what allows EA and DICE to release all future content for free, as there is no premium and no paid DLCs. So as long as the gameplay is good, I think that I will be able to deal with these customizations, as not having the player base split by paid content is a very positive thing for the community. So that's all that I have to say about the Battlefield 5 Alpha. I could sadly not do any netcode related tests, as there just weren't any empty servers to do my tests on. But I hope that I can provide you with more info on the netcode when the beta launches. Now, I would like to hear from you what you like and dislike about the game, as well as what you would like to change. So please leave your feedback in the comments down below. If you enjoy the kind of content that I put out on my channel, then it would be great if you could support me on Patreon, as YouTube's ad revenue is sadly not enough anymore to run a niche channel like mine. Without the awesome support that I get from my patrons, Battle Nonsense would not exist anymore. You can find a link to my Patreon in the description down below, where you will also find links to my social accounts in case that you want to stay up to date on the videos that I'm working on. So if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a nice day and take care. My name is Chris and this was Battle Nonsense.